What would you sacrifice for love? Would you betray your family, your city, your entire world? This is the story of a princess who did just that, forever changing the course of history. In the world of ancient Greece, where gods and mortals intertwined, stood the mighty city of Troy. Its towering walls, said to be built by the gods themselves, had withstood countless sieges. But as we'll soon discover, sometimes the greatest threat comes from within. Our tale begins in the 10th year of the Trojan War, a conflict that had raged for a decade, pitting the great heroes of Greece against the defenders of Troy. The war had started when Paris, a Trojan prince, stole away with Helen, the wife of a Greek king. Now, the shores of Troy were lined with 1,000 Greek ships, their warriors determined to bring Helen home and Troy to its knees. But our story isn't about Helen, Paris, or the famous heroes like Achilles and Hector. It's about a lesser-known figure, Laodice, a Trojan princess, daughter of King Priam and Queen Hecuba. Laodice was known for her beauty and her devotion to Troy. Yet, fate had other plans for her. One day, as Laodice stood on the walls of Troy, watching the battle rage below, her eyes met those of a Greek warrior. This was no ordinary soldier, but Acamas, son of Theseus, a hero in his own right. In that moment, something sparked between them, a connection that would soon blossom into a forbidden love. Despite the war that divided them, Laodice and Acamas found ways to meet in secret. They shared stolen moments away from the prying eyes of both Trojans and Greeks. With each encounter, their love grew stronger, and so did Laodice's in a conflict. On one side stood her loyalty to Troy, her family, and everything she had ever known. On the other, a love so powerful it seemed to transcend the bitter war around them. Laodice was torn, caught between two worlds, two loyalties. As the war dragged on, the situation in Troy grew desperate. Food was scarce, morale was low, and the once impenetrable walls began to show signs of wear. The Greek army, led by the clever Odysseus, had come up with a new strategy, a giant wooden horse, presented as a gift to the Trojans. Most Trojans saw the horse as a sign of Greek surrender, a tribute to their endurance. But Laodice knew better. In one of their secret meetings, Acamas had revealed the truth. The horse was a trap, filled with Greek warriors waiting to strike. Now, Laodice faced the most difficult decision of her life. Should she warn her people, potentially saving Troy but losing Acamas forever? Or should she keep the secret, betraying her city for a chance at love and a new life in Greece? In the end, love won out. When night fell and the city slept, Laodice made her way to the gates of Troy. With trembling hands, she unlocked them, allowing Acamas and his fellow Greeks to enter the city undetected. What followed was a night of terror and destruction. The Greeks poured out of the wooden horse, catching the Trojans completely off guard. The city that had stood for centuries fell in a single night. The screams of the dying and the roar of flames filled the air as Troy burned. Laodice watched in horror as her home crumbled around her. The full weight of her decision crashed down upon her. She had saved her love, but at what cost? Her family, her people, everything she had ever known was being destroyed before her eyes. In the chaos of the falling city, Laodice and Acamas managed to escape. They boarded a Greek ship, setting sail for a new life together. But as Troy faded into the distance, shrouded in smoke and flame, Laodice was haunted by the consequences of her actions. The story of Laodice and the fall of Troy raises profound questions about the nature of love, loyalty, and the choices we make. Was Laodice right to follow her heart, even at the cost of her city's destruction? Or should duty and loyalty to one's people always come first? These are not just questions for the ancient world. Even today, we often find ourselves torn between conflicting loyalties, between love and duty, between personal desires and societal expectations. Laodicea's tale reminds us that our choices, especially in matters of the heart, can have far-reaching consequences. The fall of Troy marked the end of an era in Greek mythology. It was a pivotal moment that spawned countless other stories: the wanderings of Odysseus, the tragedy of Agamemnon, the founding of Rome by Aeneas. And at the heart of it all was Laodicea's fateful decision. In the years that followed, Laodicea's story was told and retold. Some portrayed her as a tragic heroine, torn between love and duty. Others saw her as a cautionary tale about the dangers of betrayal. Greek playwrights and poets would revisit her story, exploring the complexities of her choice and its aftermath. The tale of Laodicea and the fall of Troy has echoed through the centuries, inspiring artists, writers, and thinkers. It has been depicted in ancient pottery, Renaissance paintings, and modern literature. The image of Troy burning, with Laodicea and Acamas fleeing by ship, has become an enduring symbol of love's power to both create and destroy. But perhaps the most important legacy of Laodicea's story is how it reflects our own struggles with difficult choices. We may not be princesses or warriors, and the fate of cities may not hang in the balance, but we all face moments where we must choose between competing loyalties. Do we follow our hearts, even if it means hurting those close to us? Do we prioritize our own happiness over our obligations to others? These are questions that Laodicea grappled with, and they are questions that we still grapple with today. In the end, the story of Laodicea opening the gates of Troy is more than just a tale from Greek mythology. It's a reflection on the human condition, on the choices we make, and the prices we pay for them. It reminds us that love, while powerful and often beautiful, can also lead to devastating consequences. As we reflect on Laodicea's choice, we're invited to consider our own lives. What would we do in her position? What are we willing to sacrifice for love? And how do we balance our personal desires with our responsibilities to others? These are not easy questions to answer, but by exploring stories like Laodicea's, we gain insights into our own nature. We see the complexity of human emotions, the weight of our decisions, and the far-reaching impacts of our actions. The fall of Troy may have happened in the realm of myth, but the dilemmas it presents are very real. In Laodicea's story, we see our own struggles reflected. We see the power of love, the pain of betrayal, and the eternal conflict between heart and duty. As we close this chapter of Greek mythology, let's carry with us the lessons of Laodicea. Let's remember that our choices matter, that love is powerful but also potentially destructive, and that the line between right and wrong is often blurrier than we'd like to admit. In the end, Laodicea's tale, like all great myths, doesn't give us easy answers. Instead, it prompts us to question, to reflect, and to strive for wisdom in our own lives. And perhaps that, more than anything, is why these ancient stories continue to captivate us, millennia after they were first told.